All right, so we are going to start with question number 4. There we go. If AG equals 6x plus 4, so this right here is 6x plus 4, AD is 4x plus 12, and the measurement of angle DOA is 28 degrees. DOA, 28 degrees. Come on. So there's something in the picture. It's there. It's a little bit hard to see if you're not looking for it. But what I see in this picture is right here and right here. What do you notice there? It's kind of blurry, but what do you see there? Has those little arc marks. And what do those arc marks mean? That those angles are congruent. So if those angles are congruent, and then I come down here to this side of the picture, and it says from A to D is forming a right angle, and from A to G is forming a right angle. That means that OA right here is called a what? An angle bisector. An angle bisector splits the angle in half. And is equidistant from the sides of the angle. So that means that AD is congruent to AG because A is on that perpendicular bisector. And so it is the same distance away from the sides of the angle there. Well, if A is equidistant from D and G, so AD is the same size as AG, what can I do with these two expressions then? Set them equal to each other. AD is congruent to AG. So that means the length of AD is equal to the length of AG. So that means 6x plus 4 is equal to 4x plus 12. And now I can solve this for x. So the first thing I have to do is get my x's to the same side. So I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. So I get 2x plus 4 equals 12. Then I'm going to get my constants all to the same side by subtracting 4 from both sides. So I get 2x is equal to, what's 12 minus 4? 8. 2x is equal to 8. If 2x is equal to 8, then how big is x? 4. That's one of the things they asked me for, and I found that piece. Now I need to find AD. Well, AD is equal to 4x plus 12, and we just found that x is how big? 4, so 4 times 4 plus 12. 4 times 4 is And 16 plus 12 would give me what? 28. So AD is 28. There's only one more thing I need to find. They want me to find the measurement of angle DOG. What did we say these little markings meant here? That it's congruent. So if the top one is 28 degrees, how big is the bottom one? 28 degrees. They want me to find the measurement of angle DOG, which is this whole big angle here. So how could I find that? Add 28 to 28 or do 28 times 2. Yes, measurement of angle DOG is equal to 2 times the measurement of angle DOA. So 2 times 28 degrees, which is 56 degrees. Wonderful work. You had to recognize from the information they gave you and from the way the picture was marked up that OA was an angle bisector in order to be able to move forward with this problem. Angle bisectors cut the angle in half, and every point on an angle bisector is going to be equidistant from the sides of the angle. That's how I knew that we could set 4x plus 12 equal to 6x plus 4. It's how I knew that if the top angle was 28, the bottom angle was 28. This all came from knowing that AO was an angle bisector. What else would you guys like to see? Number 6? Absolutely. Can the side lengths in the picture actually make a triangle? Show work to justify your answer. So this is one of the things that was covered in the video the first day after Thanksgiving break when I had to be out. And what we learned there is that any two sides of a triangle have to add to be bigger than the third side. Here's the thing about that, though. That is true, and I can check that and get my answer right. But that's a lot of work that I don't have to do. Here's why. Any two sides have to add to be bigger than the third side. So if I pick 3.9, if I add anything to 3.9, will it be bigger than 2? If I add anything to 3.9, will it be bigger than 2.3? So I don't really need to check this biggest side to see if I add it to something else, if it'll be bigger than one of the others, because it's already bigger than those other sides. So what I really need to check is if the two smallest sides add up to be bigger than the biggest side. If that's true, then my side lengths can make a triangle. So what are the two smallest sides in the picture? RS and ST, 2 and 2.3. So I'm going to add those together. 2, oops, I don't have enough room there. Let's do it here. 2 plus 2.3. And if this actually forms a triangle, then that needs to come out to be bigger than my biggest side. How big is our biggest side? 3.9. Well, what is 2 plus 2.3? How big? 4.3. Is 4.3 larger than 3.9? Yes. So I would say yes, these side lengths form a triangle. It says show work to justify your answer. That's what I did right here by adding those two smaller sides together and showing that it came out to be bigger than the third side, than the biggest side. That's showing my work. You have to make sure to give me a yes or a no, or else you didn't answer the question. The answer said, can it do this? So either yes it can, or no it can't. You don't have to give me the explanation over here, just a yes or a no, and showing me the work. Because without the work, I don't know if you just guessed it. You got a 50-50 shot of guessing correctly. So I want to see your work to justify why you gave the yes or the no answer. Yep, let me do part B and then we'll go to number 7. List the angles of the triangle in order from largest to smallest. So I need the largest angle first. Where would I find the largest angle in this? S. It's going to be across from the largest side. So since RT is my biggest side, angle S is my biggest angle. So I would start my list off with angle S. I always skip the middle one on these lists and I go and do the smallest, whichever one's going to go at the end. So I always do the biggest and the smallest. I put them in whatever order they're asking for, and whichever one's left over goes in the middle. Where would I find the smallest side? Or sorry, smallest angle is T, yes, because it is across from 2, which is my smallest side. I go across the triangle over here, so here's my smallest angle. Well, if S is the biggest and T is the smallest, which one goes in the middle? Angle R. So there's my angles in order from largest to smallest. Right, number 7 is the next one I was asked for. List the angles that satisfy the stated conditions. We want 2 angles that are greater than the measure of angle 1. When you see R greater than on a question like this, we want to look for an exterior angle, which means what they're giving me over here is an inside angle. This is an interior angle. Whatever I'm looking for, they gave me the opposite. So if I'm looking for an outside angle because it says greater than, then what they gave me is an interior angle. Well, here's angle 1. And when I look at angle 1, I see that it's inside of 2 different triangles. Look at these one at a time. First one I see is this triangle right here. So I'm going to pretend that I can't see any of the rest of this. I'm going to look at this triangle right here. I want an exterior angle so that it's bigger than angle 1. Well, what is an exterior angle to this black triangle that I just went around? Angle 3. Angle 7 is not an exterior angle because to be an exterior angle, you have to extend one of the sides of the triangle out. So angle 7 would have to be all of this to be an exterior angle. Because it wasn't formed by extending the side of a triangle out, it's not an exterior angle. But angle 3 is an exterior angle because that came from extending the top side of the triangle out. All right, so angle 1 is an interior angle of this small triangle but it's also an interior angle of this larger triangle right here. Since I want an exterior angle so that it's bigger than angle 1, I'm going to ignore all the stuff on the inside of this triangle. None of this is going to be an exterior angle for me. So angle 5 would also be bigger than angle 1. All right, let's look at part B. Two angle measures that are less than. Well, if it says are greater than, and that means I'm looking for an exterior angle. If it says less than, where should I be looking for my answers? Interior angles. So if I'm looking for an interior angle, that means the one that they gave me must be what type of angle? That is an exterior angle. So let's look at our picture. Matches my expectations. Angle 5 is out here. It's formed by the top part of the triangle extending out. So this is an exterior angle. It's an exterior angle on this big triangle that I've gone around right here. To find angles that are smaller than that, I need remote interior angles. To be a remote interior angle, I can't use the angle that's right next to it. We don't want linear pairs, so I can't go with this one right next to it. And I have to be looking at the corners, the vertices of that big triangle. So I'm also not looking at these because X is not a corner of that big triangle. So I'm looking here, and I'm looking here. So one of the angles that's smaller than angle 5 would be angle 1. Another angle that's smaller than angle 5 is this angle down here that has Z as its vertex. That's angle 6 and 7 put together. It's those two smaller angles put together. Or another name that I could give to that angle instead of calling it 6 and 7 put together would be angle AZY. That right there is enough to answer the question. I have given two angle measures that are less than angle 5. But I want to look a little bit closer at this one. Because angle 5 is also an exterior angle of this slightly smaller triangle. So I'm going to totally ignore this back part here. There's a triangle right there, and angle 5 is an exterior angle of that one. What are the two remote interior angles of this triangle? 3 and, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the other one. 3 and 7. So it's also bigger than angle 3. It's bigger than angle 7. So I could have given those two answers and gotten this completely correct. I didn't have to give the first two. I could have just given these two. Quick question though. If angle 5 is bigger than angle 7, and angle 5 is bigger than angles 6 and 7 put together, what else would have to be true? Angle 5 would also have to be bigger than what? It's bigger than 7. It's bigger than when I put 6 and 7 together. So it has to be bigger than 6 by itself also. Any two of these 5 answers would have been a full and complete correct answer. What else would you guys like to see off the review? Number which one? Number 9. Did you have one that you wanted to see? 9 and 13. Perfect. Number 9. So when I'm looking at this one, My eyes are focused on this right here. I'm looking here because I see a right angle mark and I see these two congruence marks. Well, if BC is the same size as DC, that means point C is a what? Midpoint. And it's forming a right angle right there at the midpoint, which means that AC is a what? It's forming a right angle and it's going through the midpoint. Perpendicular bisector. AC is a perpendicular bisector. And one of the things that we learned about perpendicular bisectors is that points on the perpendicular bisector are equidistant from the endpoints of the segment being bisected. And I can see that right here with point C. Point C is equidistant from B and D. That's what these little congruence marks here are telling me. But what would that mean about A then? It's not necessarily a midpoint. It's not cutting a segment in half, but it is equidistant from B and D. So this distance is the same as this distance. So AB is congruent to AD. If they're congruent, then their lengths are the same. AB is equal to AD. And that means that 3.8x minus 16 is equal to 2.4x plus 12. And now we need to solve this for x, so I need to get my x's to the same side. I'm going to subtract 2.4x from both sides. What is 3.8 minus 2.4? .8 minus 2.4. 1.4. So I have 1.4x minus 16 equals 12. Then I'm going to add 16 to both sides. (1.4x) is equal to 28. And then I divide both sides by 1.4. And I get that x is how big? X is 20. Is that what I put on the line up there? No. I have to take this answer of 20 and I have to substitute it back in. We want to know the length of AB. And AB is 3.8x minus 16. So I do 3.8 times 20 minus 16. What is 3.8 times 20? 76. So we do 76 minus 16. And what is 76 minus 16? 60. There's my answer. So that's what I put on this line up here. AB is 60. Number 13. Very last problem. Says compare. When you see compare, we're either going to do a greater than, a less than, or a congruent to. We want to compare the measures of AD and CD. Well, AD is right here. I have no idea how big it is because it doesn't say. And CD is right here. Again, no idea how big it is because it doesn't say. I've got two different triangles, little triangles in this picture. I see this one right here, and then I see the one that's below it. I see that one side of the top triangle, BC, is the same size as one side of the bottom triangle, BA. Do these two triangles have anything else that would be the same between the two of them? What else would be the same? Shared side, BD. When I have two sides of one triangle that are congruent to two sides of another triangle, we can use the hinge theorem. This is what allows me to make comparisons between those sides. So the hinge theorem says the angle in between the sides that are marked as congruent. So like this 22-degree angle right here, and this 38-degree angle right here. I can compare those, and that will give me information about the sides that are across from them. Which are the two sides that I've been asked to compare? Which of these two angles is the bigger of those two angles? Which angle is the bigger one? Which one? DA. Which angle is the bigger angle? They're both angle B. DBA, 38 degrees, is my bigger angle. So I would say 38 degrees, the measurement of angle DBA is greater than, it's bigger than what? Measure of angle DBC, here's my smaller angle. And so that means what? Which one of these sides would be the bigger side? DA. Here's my bigger third side. So DA is bigger than, or I could call it AD. Either one, it does not matter whether you call it DA or AD. AD would have to be bigger than what? DC. DC or CD. This is the comparison. that I was asked to make. Here's how I know I'm allowed to make it. This is how I knew that AD was bigger than CD, not just based on the way the picture looked, but based on the angles that they are across from. Somebody asked me the other day, and I thought it was a really good question, how do you know that it's the third side? Well, because the other two sides of this bottom triangle have congruence markings on them, and they're congruent to two sides of that top triangle. I might not know how big they are, but I know they're congruent to each other, and so I'm talking about the side that's not marked with a congruence symbol in those other two triangles. That's why I'm calling it that third side. What else would you guys like to see? Number 10, absolutely. Hannah, Priya, and Kenny sit next to each other at school, forming a triangular work area. And I can see from the picture that the distance between Kenny and Priya is 30 inches. I can see that the distance between Kenny and Hannah is 18 inches. I want to know the possible range for the distance between Hannah and Priya so that they actually form a triangle and they're not just sitting like in a line together. So to find my lower boundary, this is another thing that was on that video from the very first day after break. So I need to find my lower and my upper boundaries. Remember when we said earlier that any two sides of a triangle have to add up together to be bigger than the third side? To find that upper boundary, I don't know that these are the two smallest sides. Maybe they are. If they're the smallest sides, then when I add them together, so 18 plus 30, I get what? 48. That third side has to be smaller than that. Because when I add those two together, it would have to be bigger than that third side. So the third side has to be smaller than 48, because that's what I get when I add those two together. To find my lower boundary, we're assuming that the bigger of those two sides is my biggest side. So I'm going to assume that 30 is my biggest side. And I'm going to subtract the smaller one. So 30 minus 18 to get my lower boundary. So I add for the upper and I subtract for the lower. What is 30 minus 18? 12. So that third side has to be bigger than 12, or else when I add the two smallest, it's not bigger than the third, because 12 and 18 would only add up to 30, so it's got to be bigger than 18. But it has to be smaller than when I add those two sides together. So as long as it's somewhere between 12 and 48, when I add the two smallest sides, it'll come out to be bigger than the third side. What else would you guys like to see? We still have about 10 minutes. Which one? Number 11, absolutely. Given the triangle below, list the sides from shortest to longest. Well, it wouldn't be so hard if I knew how big those angles were. Because I know that the biggest side is across from the largest angle. And the smallest side is across from smallest angle. So I got to figure out which angle is the biggest and which angle is the smallest. What do we know about the three angles of a triangle? They add up to 180. So the measurement of angle A plus the measurement of angle B plus the measurement of angle C is going to come out to be exactly 180. Well, how big is angle A? 4x minus 38. How big is angle B? 2x minus 1. And angle C? 3x plus 12. So all of those have to add up to 180. Let's combine our x's together first. So I have 4x and 2x and 3x. What does 4 plus 2 plus 3 add up to? 4 plus 2 plus 3. 9. So I have 9x. And now I have to add my constants together. So negative 38 minus 1 plus 12. What is negative 38 minus 1 plus 12? How much? Negative 27. So minus 27 equals 180. Now we're going to solve this for x by adding 27 to both sides and then dividing by 9. What is 180 plus 27? 107, and then we divide that by 9. 207, sorry, 207. Thank you. I subtracted instead of added, and I subtracted a lot. 207 divided by 9. I'm sorry, how much? 23. So x is 23. How does that help me figure out which of these angles is the biggest? We're going to substitute back in. We're going to take 23 and plug it in the place of x into each of these angles. So for angle B, I would do 2 times 23 minus 1. 2 times 23 is 46. So I have 46 minus 1. So this is 45 degrees here. For angle A, we do 4 times 23 minus 38. What is 4 times 23? $92. And 92 minus 38, 54. So angle A is 54 degrees. Well, I already know that angle B is not the biggest now. And then we do the same thing with angle C down at the bottom. 3 times 23 plus 12. You said that was 69? Plus 12 would be what? 81. So this angle down here is 81 degrees. All right, we're supposed to list these in order from shortest to longest. So where would my shortest side be? Which one? AC, yes. This angle right here is my smallest angle. So that's going to be across from my smallest side. So AC is going to start my list. Then I go and do the biggest. Where's the biggest side? AB. Here's my biggest angle. And so directly across from that will be the biggest side. So AB ends my list. If AC is the smallest and AB is the biggest, which one goes in the middle? BC. All right, I have 4 more minutes. If you have a short question, I can do one short problem. Which one? Number 3. This is a good one. The blank of a triangle is where the 3 angle bisectors of a triangle intersect, and it's equidistant from each blank. This is the incenter. The incenter is where the angle bisectors intersect, and it is equidistant from each side of the triangle. The blank of a triangle is where the three perpendicular bisectors of a triangle intersect, and it is equidistant from each blank of a triangle. This is the circumcenter. The circumcenter of a triangle is where the three perpendicular bisectors intersect, and it is equidistant from each vertex, or each corner of the triangle. The blank of a triangle is where the three altitudes of a triangle intersect. This is the one that we didn't talk about very much. This is the orthocenter. And then the last one, the blank of a triangle is where the three medians of a triangle intersect, and it is the, forgot a verb in there. This is the centroid. The centroid of a triangle is where the three medians of a triangle intersect, and it is the center of mass of a triangle. That means if I found the centroid, I could balance it on the point of my pen. If I put my pen up against the centroid, the whole triangle would balance on that one point. Right. Answer key is going up next period. So by the end of third period, the answer key for the entire review will be posted. I'm also doing videos of every single class period, so there's going to be 5 videos up. So if I didn't go over one of the ones that you have a question about, maybe check out the videos from the other classes that will be posted today. All right? If you have any questions, please make sure you send me a message in Canvas. I'm more than happy to help you as you study for your test tomorrow. Last regular semester test is tomorrow.